So for those wondering where I've been doing these videos, this is the shop where I was making knives. That used to be where my grinder was. That was where the drill press was. A bunch of machines were there and there. And this was the setup for doing kydex and stuff on this table. I'm selling most of this because I'm not going to be doing this for a while and I don't want to have to store all of this, but for shit hits the fan, there's some of this that is worth storing, so I figured I would do a video on it. That's the forging equipment. A good Anvil and Vise and forge and shit like that. Tongs, hammers. This shit's pretty much invaluable. If nothing else, you'll need X thing made of metal and not have it. And the ability to just make it is cool. Also, it costs you nothing to have this, basically. It costs you whatever it costs to buy this shit initially. And that's it. And like this central stand and that little widget over there, the forge, and a couple of tanks of propane and a small box of hand tools, and you're fucking good. Like, that's all you need to do this shit, really. I want to get a hand crank blower for a charcoal fire. I think that would be cool to have. And I'd like to get a hand crank grinder too, because those exist for not much money. And shit hits the fan, off grid, whatever. Probably be a good idea. This is a pipe vise, which comes in really handy for forge work, actually. It came on this stand, and at first I was kind of like, why is that there? And then I was forging on a hammer and had to hold it. And yeah, that was really fucking handy. If you're holding something round, the pipe vise is kind of killer. And then this thing is good at everything else, basically. It's not meant for forge work, but being set up on this metal stand, it works pretty well. This anvil you can get for 130 bucks. This is a cast steel Chinese anvil off eBay. I highly recommend it. I've forged basically everything I've ever forged on this anvil. And you can still get it at that price, which is an insanely good deal. And a little propane forge like that is not very expensive either. You're talking maybe a couple $100 on one of those. The vices and the stand, I lucked into those and got them for 150 bucks. And it's an unusual setup. It's a very high anvil stand, but I'm a very tall person. It's supposed to be basically at your knuckles. And for me, it's maybe just a little bit above them. For most people, the stand is insanely fucking tall. So I really don't want to sell it. And you might notice all of this shit. That is silicone. I was trying to figure out how to do this and was talking to Jason Knight on Instagram about Conan and Moses' DVD collection. Because that's how you get to talk to people, folks. You don't ask them about knives. You ask them about crazy shit. And they're like, I have to fucking talk to this person. That's how I've talked to so many famous people. Pro tip. Anyway, I asked him this question like miles into that conversation, and he told me to get silicone and told me to silicone this thing to this thing and this thing to the ground. That's what I did, and it worked like a motherfucker, to be honest. I don't know how I'm going to get that off now. Should be pretty easy, though. Silicone, you kind of pick at it and it comes off. A filing cabinet, one of these big motherfuckers, makes a great tool chest. You can get these for like 75 to 100 bucks usually. That's in the olden days. They're probably like $800 now because of, COVID or whatever. Fucking no. These things will eat propane. I have 4 tanks of propane in this place, and it's not enough, really. A tank of propane lasts you a night of forging if you're lucky. And a tank of propane is like $17, so that sucks. A CO2 fire extinguisher because, shit happens. And this thing is really cool, actually. I kind of invented this or whatever, but this is a fire bucket for like oily rags, and my oil bucket for quenching shit is in there. So it's on a foot pedal, and it will quench itself out anytime you don't want it. And if you look in there, it's full of sand, and then there's another bucket down in there, like a coffee can, with another bucket sitting inside it, so you can take the oil out whenever you want. I always thought that was cool. The communist flag. I have a communist flag hanging in my garage because a friend of my grandfather's brought it back from Afghanistan in the 80s. Long story on that one, but it was interesting. And I get people all the time that would walk up to the garage and see me forging and shit and be like, right on, brother, communism. And I'd get to tell them that, like, you see that little red smudge in the corner? That's Soviet blood. Anyway, I think there's a lot of shit for Shit Hits the Fan that you could have to potentially make money. I think this shit is a damn near certainty. If you had this and some sort of way to weld, fuck, yeah, you'd be a useful animal. Okay? And other things that might be useful would be like a shitload of medical supplies and expertise. Okay? There's other professions, basically, that you can have in a big bag in your fucking garage and be good for Shit Hits the Fan. It's an investment I don't hear that many people talking about. But, like, especially if you want to go become a doctor or a nurse or something like that, that's valuable. Even like an EMT or a fireman or something like that. You and your knowledge set and whatever is a valuable commodity that will always be worth something. And in this case, this is kind of betting on like the extreme end of the world or whatever, but I liked making knives and forging shit, and I still like forging shit. That's why I'm keeping this. And I'm fucking stoked that I was able to sell basically all the shit that I don't really need right now. And that I can get good money out of now for money that I can use for other shit. And then at the same time, keep the shit that, in my opinion, is really valuable and hard to replace. Like this stand, I paid $150 for this. If I sold this, I would charge someone like $1,000 because it's very difficult to replace if you're not a welder or whatever. And like people underestimate that. And like maybe most people you're selling this to can weld. Okay, but that's not everyone. I know a bunch of people who would want this who definitely can't weld. Okay, let's put it that way. Much less assemble all of this. This is a hobbyist setup for amateurs in a lot of ways. It's kind of made of junk and taken to the extreme. Like I put it to you that you could do some pretty serious fucking forging on this thing. I have. I've forged a couple things that were pretty goddamn big on this. Anyway, thanks for watching. Listen to me ramble about blacksmithing and the end of the world and communism. Welcome to my channel, I guess. That's kind of what we do here. See you later.